Good afternoon, everyone. Great to see everyone. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Georgia Antoniaco, and I am honored to have you here with us this evening, late afternoon, whatever the case might be. Some of you look so excited to be here. Consistency, Mr. Witchy, take a look around. This is what happens every time. I don't understand, but I am excited that you're here. Allow me to share with you a little bit about what the next couple of hours will look like. First off, before I even get to this, we do put a number of things in place that we hope are meaningful to you. We know that you're required to be here, and we understand that. We know that. We get that. And with that being said, what I really like for you to do is really take this as this opportunity to be present and purposeful in the time that we can be together. We know that you have 1,000 other things to do. We understand that. Lots of us have 1,000 other things to do. And since you're here, one of the things that I'd like for you to do is to be here. This is this time that we have to hold each other accountable and to be present in a way that sometimes is difficult. So let's be grateful for the time that we have to be together. Let's be present, and let's walk away with maybe just a little nugget of information that you didn't know before. As you walk through the door, share it while we're here together so that we can all learn from each other. Okay? So let me take a second to share with you what we hope. As usual, this is our time that we're required to make sure that we're all on the same page with the medical updates. What may or may not be happening. Some of you have some EpiPens in your hand. I will let the nurses review that information with you, even if you've done it 100 times. There's no question. For those of us that have been in situations that we've had to use it, or be in a situation that we're scared that we might have to use it, this refresher is always very beneficial. We'll also have our athletic trainers review a couple of things. Now, for those of you that are advisors, sometimes I read all the evaluations, and I understand that sometimes for those of us that are simply advisors, that little piece of the athletic trainer that shares this information, see what you can walk away with and learn from that time period. Mr. Witchy will share with us the perspective that comes from the central office, and he'll share any updates that we all need to know as club advisors, and we all need to know as coaches. And then we will make sure you walk away with, I'm going to review a little bit of a different perspective on how to take a look at what's going on with our young people, share their perspectives with you. And as usual, I am required to make sure that when you walk out of here, you understand the expectations and requirements regarding our extracurricular code. Let me see, did I forget anything? Okay. So, with that being said, I'd like to turn it over to Andrea. Andrea is one of our school nurses. I'll allow her to share the details and the information regarding the, not toys that you have in your hands, but the EpiPens. Here you go. Thanks, Andrea.
Hi, my name is Andre Bickley. I'm one of the school nurses here in Dublin. I have Davis Middle School. I have Alicia Plymouth. She's one of our other district nurses. She has Carr and Grizel, right? And Wina. So first and foremost, just want to bring up that you guys are responsible for these kiddos. So always know what's going on with them. You want to make sure that you reach out to your district nurses regarding any health concerns. If you don't know who your nurse is, you need to ask the athletic trainer. And just make sure that you keep that in the forefront of your mind, that if something is going on with the kid, that you need to be aware of that, okay? And you need to know how to respond. So we're going to talk about Epi. Raise your hand if you've had Epi training before. Okay, so most everybody knows what this is, what it's about, what it's used for. So signs and symptoms of an anaphylactic reaction include swelling in the throat, mouth, itching, cough, nausea, vomiting. So if you have a kid who has an allergy, oftentimes it's a food allergy, you want to make sure that they have this They should have like it in their backpack or something like that. You can carry it with you depending on what sport. I know like if you're cross country or track or something, you would want to make sure you have that with it because you don't have to go a long distance to grab this and get it back to the kid. So whenever I'm training on epi, the first thing that I like to tell people is always grab it like this. I know very tenured nurses who have administered epi to themselves, nurses who have been nurses for 20 years. So if you've done that, then you no longer have epi to give to the child who's in need, and you're jacked up too, right? So we want to do that. So always grab it like this. It's a little bit counterintuitive. You want to take the cap, the blue cap, off of the end. That is not the end that the needle comes out of, so that's how people end up getting themselves stuck. This medication goes into the large muscle of the outer thigh at a 90-degree angle. You'll hear a little click, so count to 3, and it comes right out like that. Anytime you've given this medication, that's an automatic squad call, so you want to make sure that you have activated that emergency response system and had somebody call 911. So that's the EpiPen. The other one that we have here is the AviQ. This one's kind of nice. It's a little bit more intuitive. It talks to you. So we didn't pass these out, but you can see it's a little square. It looks like it's a cap, like this.
Contains no needle or drug and is for training purposes only. Do not use this trainer during an allergic emergency.
Okay, so she's going to talk to you the whole time.
You are ready to use.
She's going to talk to you the whole time. It is intuitive, so you're just going to pull that red cap off the end. Once you've done that,
Then push firmly and
you're ready to give it. So same thing, it goes into the outer muscle of the thigh.
2, 1.
It counts down for you.
Training complete.
Okay, so same thing, you're going to call 911 and put the cap back on because she won't be quiet.
Replace the bed safety guard.
Okay. All right. So same thing, if you're given the AviQ, you're going to want to make sure that you call 911 for that as well. Else I'm forgetting. So Narcan. Raise your hand if you've had Narcan training. We had a couple of you have had Narcan training. So Narcan is for anyone who is suspected of drug overdose. If you guys will pass your epi things to the end of the aisle, Alicia's going to come around and pick them up. It's for suspected drug overdose. It's just a little nasal spray. It kind of looks like an Afrin or something like that. Most of our buildings have Narcan with all of our AEDs. They're in a little tiny pouch that's attached to the AED. So that's another thing. Please know where your AEDs are. If you do not know where your AEDs are, you need to reach out to your athletic director and get that information. So that one's pretty self-explanatory. If you see someone go down, a suspected drug overdose, you'll have activated that emergency response system, have somebody go and get that AED, get the Narcan out. It just is a spray, needle spray. It goes into the nose. Okay. Alicia, am I forgetting anything? Good. Anybody have any questions about emergency medications or where to find the information that you need? Okay.
One thing I was going to say that sometimes the EpiPens are generic, or where both sides come off and there's a wheel that's disposed. Just make sure you ask each kid on your team that might have an EpiPen or a diabetic, ask them where they put it, where it is, and make sure you look at it and see it. Sometimes they're kind of a bizarre generic one. You want to make sure you look at it, play with it, know how to use it before the time comes.
So she just said that these are not the only 2 types of epinephrine on the market. So you want to make sure that you actually see what your kid has, know where they have it, and you can always go online. All manufacturers have little videos about how to give it. So if it's something that we didn't demonstrate here, you can always get that information. Again, please utilize your district nurse. If you have questions, if you don't know something, ask. Any questions? Good? Okay.
Well, good afternoon. My name is Kip Witchy. I'm the coordinator of athletics for Dublin Schools, and I work with the 4 middle school athletic directors and athletic programs, and also the 3 high school athletic directors and their programs. This is my 45th year, I'm not 90. This is my 45th year of being with Dublin Schools, and I cheated a little bit because the first 13 were kindergarten through senior year, and I graduated here when it was Dublin High School. So throughout my career in Dublin, I've been doing a lot of different things in terms of I was a middle school and high school teacher, I was a club advisor, I was a coach, I was an athletic director, I've been an assistant principal, and now in this new role at a central office, and I get to go back to kind of my roots in athletics. I was the athletic director at Scioto for 16 years. More than anything, first of all, I want to say thank you so much for doing this. I mean, a lot of you probably, not only for being at this meeting, because most of your probably your days started, doesn't matter if you're in the public sector or with us in the teaching business, but I'm sure your day started really early, and we appreciate, like Georgianne said, you guys coming to get a few little nuggets from what we're going to tell you today. So I really appreciate you guys being here today. One of the big things, let me get a hand, raising hands here, as far as how many of you are first-time coaches or first-time advisors? Okay, all right, well, that's good, because it's good to have some new people as well. The thing is, especially if you're a new person, the best help you can get is whoever's working with you. As far as if you have another head coach or another advisor that you've worked with, they'll always be a good resource for you. So, and pretty much what my presentation is just kind of some things, some suggestions, some things you might want to do or to try. One of the biggest things is treat the students and the parents, obviously with respect. And the thing is, the other thing is, imagine if it was your nieces and nephews or your own kids. Would you want them to be working with you? As far as you want someone that they're working with to be, you want them treated appropriately, I guess is what I'm saying. Be nice, be positive, and be interested in what they're doing. Big thing is, like I started to say before, if you were a club advisor or if you're a coach with no assistant or something like that, just realize you're not alone. You have, if you're a club advisor, you always have your principal or your assistant principal. Somebody else suggested another good source is another club advisor that's been there and has done it for years and knows some tricks and the trades that they can pass on to you. So just remember that you're not alone. You're always able to there's always somebody that will be willing to help you on that. For those of you that are coaches, or specifically head coaches, you'll want to have your meet the parent night. Your athletic director will probably already have that scheduled for you or give you a window of time when you can do that. But one of the big things is just try to be as detailed as you possibly can when they get there. Give them schedules, give them some idea of what to expect. Because a lot of times, especially if you have a lot of freshmen in your program, they're going to be new to high school and have no idea what the world goes on at the high school. They're used to their safe zone when they're in the middle school, and they were used to that. But now it's a whole different paradigm shift, and they're going to do something a little bit different that's a little bit more competitive. And one of the big things is communication. Good communication with your parents, good communication with your kids. A lot of times, it comes down to credibility, and you're not going to be perfect on it either, because sometimes practice times change, sometimes things happen, and you have to do things a little bit differently. But if you can, if at all possible, try to make sure that you give them as much notice as you can. One of the things, especially in athletics, if there's always going to be that opportunity at some point when the game's over with, the match has not gone well, and then there's going to be that parent standing right down there waiting for you. And the thing is, what we try to recommend is try to come up with an opportunity for cooler heads to prevail. What we kind of call that is the 24-hour rule. You can be respectful to the parent or say, we just finished the game, I need to get back into the kids, but I'd love to talk to you about this. Why don't you give me a call tomorrow and we'll set up a time when we can talk. So that's usually better than duking it out, not literally, but dealing with it right there at the end of the game when the tempers are really flared and that kind of thing. So just try to kind of keep the 24-hour rule in mind, and hopefully that will help you out. Student safety is going to be some of the things I talk about next. Because of some things that happened in the district in the past, the district's kind of strengthened some of the rules and things and guidelines that they want to make sure that all of our coaches and all our teachers and all our other employees follow. Absolutely no one-to-one texting at all, because that can potentially compromise you and also compromise the school district as well. A lot of times, what some people will do is they'll do, if they send an email out, make sure it's either to the team or if it has to do with one of the students, if you're gonna send it to the kid, also copy the parent, because that way that protects you in case no one can say, you did this or didn't do that right. So really try to avoid one-on-one contact when it comes to texting and social media. Another situation that's happened in the past, make sure that you're not having meetings with students behind closed doors, with closed windows and closed blinds and that kind of thing. Because it could be, and it probably will 99% of the time be perfectly harmless. But the thing is that makes people, sometimes make people, what's that all about? Why would he be meeting behind, or why would she be meeting behind closed doors with an athlete? But if you do, just make sure you always have somebody with you, and don't do it one-on-one. Another district policy, absolutely do not put a kid in your car in terms of take home. There may be a situation where, unfortunately, you're trying to get home, it's been a long day, you got practice until 8:30, and here's Johnny still hanging out here waiting for his ride. You want to do it, but don't. As far as don't put a kid in your car and take him home. But the thing is, if it's an emergency, whatever gender the child is, make sure you have somebody of the same gender as the child with you in order to go. It all has to do with covering yourself and making sure that you're protecting not only the kid, but also protecting yourselves. Okay, those of you that have booster clubs for athletics, the district has a policy pretty much don't ever touch money. Because the thing is, again, another one of those situations where it's set up to protect you. It's not always convenient, but a lot of times, if you have a booster club, if it's booster money, you need to try to get one of your booster members, a booster treasurer, or one of the officers, or even just a parent that's with the booster club, have them show up and collect the money for you so you don't get put in that situation. I had a coach in Saturday years ago, cut the wrong kid, and the parent tried to start this whole thing about, well, he was stealing the sweatshirt. The sweatshirt money never went to the boosters, and he had never touched it. It all went to the boosters anyway. It was his parent trying to start something as far as that goes. That doesn't happen all the time. But the thing is, you always have to kind of keep in the back of your head, I've got to try to find a way to make sure that I'm protecting myself at the same time. And also with booster clubs, one of the things that comes up with some of the booster clubs too is the fact that they don't like surprises from you, and you aren't going to like surprises from them. What I mean by that is, best practice is if you're a head coach, or going to be a head coach sometime, when you have a booster club, they're always going to want at the end of the season want to try to start coming up with what their budget's going to be for the following year based upon what you want, what you need for the program. And again, back at Site, I had a coach in the early years that would just walk in and hand them a $5,000 bill out of the blue. And they had no money, they had not planned for it, they did not have the fundraising money done and that kind of thing. So I guess what I'm trying to say, if you want to have a successful booster program, it has to be a little bit of a give and take with the boosters as well as the coaching staff, as far as in other words, making sure the communication is good between the two groups so nobody's getting surprises. They call this coach's conduct, which is going to sound like common sense, you would think, but obviously, if you're on away trips, away games, if it's an overnight, if it's something like that, or a spring break trip or something like that, obviously, coaching staff, no smoking, no drinking on the trips during the school functions. Story I had a wrestling tournament that one of our teams went to, and a couple younger assistant coaches, head coach stayed back at the hotel. Across the street there was an establishment. The two assistant coaches decided they were going to go over and enjoy the rest of the evening while the kids are back in the dorm asleep, and with the head coach still back in the building. And of course they came back to the hotel, ran into one of the kids. They detected what they had been doing, and fortunately or unfortunately, on Monday morning they were no longer with us in terms of in their position. So just be smart about that kind of thing. And also, even though it is your social media account, it is your Facebook, it is your Instagram, whatever. Make sure you take a real good look at that. And the thing is, you may think it's blocked and locked down pretty tight, but you know how good the kids are with technology. We had a student teacher about 4 years ago that thought her account was pretty well locked down, and she had some things that she shouldn't have, usually with debt, some things that she shouldn't have had on her account. And needless to say, she was in her senior year of student teaching and did not get a license because of it. So just kind of keep that thing, and I don't want to scare you, and maybe I'll run out of the room here by the time I'm finished. But there's just some of the things we have to make sure you need to know about, just kind of as a reminder. Now, a lot of you will be working with our athletic training staff, and Chris Troyer's here from SIOTA. He's going to talk to you about that a little bit when I wrap up. But some of the best things you can do for them is to just keep them informed. A lot of times, things change, like I said, your practice schedules change, but they also, the trainers are there usually about 2 to 3 hours early and an hour and a half to 2 hours after your event's over with. And just as common courtesy, your trainers they will be a tremendous help to you, not only from a medical standpoint, but they can, especially a lot of our trainers have been with the district for a long time and have seen a lot of different things. So they'll kind of be a good resource for you. And some of them you can definitely ask questions if you come up with a situation with a parent or a situation with a kid or whatever that you haven't experienced. They're also a good resource to go to. And the last thing I want to tell you is take care of yourselves. Because some of you are working, like I said earlier, out in the business world or outside the school business. You're working all kinds of hours. You have families, you have kids. Those that are inside the school business, you're working full time. You're working great papers. You need to have family of your own that you're taking care of. Take care of yourself, because you won't be any use to us if you're not taking care of who you are too. So again, thank you so much for your willingness to do this. We couldn't do it without you. Thank you so much.
So I think he's going to switch over to my slideshow now, hopefully, because I didn't recognize any of those words on that one. For those of you that don't know me, see a lot of familiar faces in here. My name's Chris Troyer. I'm one of the athletic trainers in the district. This is my 16th year in Dublin. My 3rd year as an Ohio Health employee. 3+ years ago now, the district entered a partnership with Ohio Health, which expanded our athletic training coverage to provide athletic trainers at the middle school level. And for those of you that coach at the middle school level, I think you would agree that has been a huge benefit to the district. It takes a lot of the burden off of you as coaches for making decisions that, quite frankly, you weren't trained to make, that you worry about the X's and O's, and lets our athletic training staff worry about who can play, who can't play, medical clearance, those kinds of things. So I just want to take a few minutes. The first thing that I want to say also is thank you to each of you. Nobody gets into coaching, and for that matter, athletic training, either to get rich. We do this because we love taking care of kids, working with kids, helping them along the growth and development continuum. And we all recognize the value of extracurricular activities, clubs, drama, music, theater, and in my area, athletics. I've been doing this for 25 years. The high school level is where I want to be. I have no aspirations to go anywhere else, because one of my favorite things is seeing my athletes go from these squirrely little freshmen to graduating seniors, almost adults, and then sometimes, show of hands, come back and coach with us. My former athletes, several of whom are present here today, which is really, really cool. All of the athletic trainers in Dublin follow similar policies and procedures, but obviously all of our buildings are different, our coaching staffs are different, our sports instruction may be different. So we like to say that our similarities are different, but we have a ton of consistency in placing the health and the safety of the athlete first and foremost. We, in Ohio, athletic trainers operate underneath the supervision and direction of a team physician. So if you weren't aware of that, that doesn't mean that I sit around and make arbitrary medical decisions based on what kind of mood I'm in today. And you really don't want me to win this game, do you, by holding him out? I do have a team physician that I work under that has set up for me a standard operating procedure. If I have questions, concerns, something that is not making sense from a clearance standpoint, then I consult with our team physicians. We also have a tremendous array of consultants in specialty areas. And if you can read through that list, you may recognize names that are not affiliated with Ohio Health. We have relationships with all of the different medical groups because we do not force our kids to go to any one physician. A lot of kids will choose Nationwide Children's, a lot of kids will choose OSU, will choose different providers. So for me, I've got to have relationships and rapport built with them. That way we can effectively communicate and make sure that we're doing what's right for the athlete, no matter what logo is on our shirt. Ultimately, that's what it's all about. So in Dublin, we have 3 team physicians, including Dr. Bob Whitehead, who is the team physician here at Coffman. He's also the district lead physician. So we meet with them regularly and set our policies and procedures and make sure that they're at sports medicine standards. And sometimes that can get a little tricky because there are different standards for sports medicine than there are for just general medicine and general clearance. So there are times when we have a disagreement, meaning that a physician may clear an athlete before we feel like they meet the sports medicine standards. So that's when we ask you as a coach, pump the brakes a little bit, give us a second, let's make sure that we're doing what's right for the athlete. So know that that's nice to have that extra level of protection. Winning that game that night is important, I get that, that's why we keep score, but ultimately the long-term health and safety of our athletes are the most important thing. So that's our staff, all 10 of us, a lot of experience on that list. So if you do not know your athletic trainer, if you are new, this upcoming season is your first season, find them, introduce yourself to them. Chances are they're going to be busy with lots of kids complaining about things in their room. So take the opportunity to meet with them. Hopefully they will have a chance to meet with you guys and go over emergency action procedures, what I call a red flags list, athletes on your team that may be diabetic, maybe asthmatic, all of those things. May need an EpiPen that you guys went through today. That way you know ahead of time who you're dealing with. Because obviously if you think about those of you that are familiar with Dublin Scioto, we've got a pretty large campus, and on any given night in the spring, I may have 2 softball games, a lacrosse game, boys volleyball, 2 baseball games, and a tennis match going at the same time. So if I'm clear across campus, then you have something to unravel. We want you to make sure you're up to speed and you will be the first responder in that situation and maybe the one enacting the emergency action plan with that. So make sure you talk with your athletic trainer. The other thing I would encourage you to do when you go to an away event, especially the middle school coaches, most of the high schools in this area will have athletic training coverage. The middle school level, it's a little spottier. It's starting to come around, but you don't see it as much. So make sure you ask the opposing coach, do you have an athletic trainer available? What happens if we have an emergency? I know that's not what you want to talk about, especially because your bus is running late and all of those things. But obviously we want to make sure if something happens that we know what to do to take care of our kids. The functions of the athletic trainer, obviously we're on site, care and prevention of athletic injuries. We try to prevent as many of them. Prevention of re-injury, making sure that we don't get them just ready for that next game and then they're right back in injured again. We're advisors for you guys on what do I do in this situation. I've got this kid and this is going on. What do I do with that? We help the district monitor safety concerns and address possible situations if you don't have the proper padding in a gym and kids are running into the wall. If you don't have toppers for your fences at your baseball or softball field, things like that, that we can all work together to prevent injury. And then obviously monitor potential liability concerns. So responsibilities for us, again, we were on site or on call for all home events. Practices, we're there most of the practices. Obviously with the wide array at the high school level, chances are we won't be at every single practice. That's why we work with you as coaches to make sure that you know the emergency action plan. So if you decide to have an unscheduled shoot around on a Sunday afternoon there, if something happens, you've at least been trained how to enact your emergency action plan. We do travel with varsity football and try to travel with the other varsity sports for before tournament time. And then really just try to be a resource for our parents, for our coaches, for you, and make sure, again, our athletes are participating as safely as possible. So some of the guidelines that are Dublin specific, and I would encourage you, if you haven't read the athletic training portion of the student handbook, do it. It's a good refresher. Those of you that have been around long enough have probably been through most of the scenarios that are presented in there, but it kind of prevents some misunderstandings, especially with the parents, because obviously parents think that part of those apply to them, and sometimes they think that they don't, that it was written for everybody else, not their child. So we want to make sure that you guys as coaches have read that and are familiar with that, so we're all presenting a unified message, so that you're not telling the parent one thing and then it isn't correct. So, you know, that can become a mess sometimes. So a couple of things that I just want to highlight in closing, a couple of the things that probably come up the most often is that our program is not designed to replace a physician. If they go to their family physician, we have to follow those guidelines. There are sometimes kids go to the physician or go to the doctor when we don't think that they needed to go to the doctor. And they come back with a doctor's note that says they're out for 2 weeks. There's not a whole lot we can do in that situation. That's frustrating for you guys, it's frustrating for us, because a lot of times it's an injury that I didn't even know about. You know, well, I hurt my ankle yesterday in practice. I was like, well, I was here the whole time, why didn't you say anything? Well, it didn't bother me until I got home. So mom took me to the pediatrician this morning, and now out 2 weeks. So that, obviously, that's a situation that we want to try to prevent, but sometimes it happens. So we do encourage them to keep their family physician relationship. When I call a parent about an injury and present what I feel like is the appropriate course of action, I give them a choice. I'm not there to make a decision medically for their parent. I may try to nudge them in one direction or the other, depending on what the injury is. We do have relationships with our team physicians that we can get them in, you know, either same day or next day appointments. A lot of times we try to make it easy for them. Our team physicians do once weekly clinics at the high school. So I really try to present not only the best place for the athlete, but the most timely and sometimes the most convenient for the parent, knowing that if it's a single parent that they can't really take time off work and they've got other children, you know, it can be a little bit daunting. So we really try to work with the parent, find the best place for them. So our team physician can see them, it doesn't have to see them. The only exception to that is we do have a little bit of an extra safety net built into our guidelines about concussions, and that all of our district physicians have final say on concussion. For example, you have little Johnny falls during a basketball game, hits his head on the back of the floor, presents with concussion symptoms, which you guys know because you take the online test, right? They're pulled from the game, they go to urgent care down the street, and the urgent care physician says, no, you're fine. But they obviously are presenting with signs and symptoms that are consistent with a concussion. We have, in Dublin, we have the opportunity to step in and say, look, that doesn't meet current standards. This is meeting the standards of a concussion and must be cleared by one of the district physicians. It doesn't mean they have to be necessarily managed by that physician, but it's just an extra layer of protection. And honestly, we'll keep parents from doc shopping. They'll eventually learn the way to answer the questions, and you'd be surprised. You know, I've had athletes, not in Dublin, but I had a wrestling tournament a couple of years ago. Athlete got slammed down, was obviously dazed. He got up and tried to walk before I could get to him across the gym and was doing one of these. Obviously, was not going back into play that day, correct? We can all agree on that in 2020, right? But the parent was adamant that he was fine, and I'm going to take him down to OSU, I'll take him wherever. I'm like, ma'am, the way the state of Ohio concussion guidelines are written, you could take him to see the Surgeon General of the United States, and he's not going back in today. So you'd be surprised how many parents would try to doc shop just to get their child back into middle school wrestling. So the other thing, if they go to a physician, if they see a physician, we have to have a clearance note from that physician. So we get all the time, I went and saw my doctor for my ankle. Well, what did they say? Did they give you a no? Well, no, they said I'm fine. No, we can't have that. So if you have an athlete that you know has been to a physician and they show up and they say, I'm fine, I'm ready to go practice, please send them to us. Okay, we've got to make sure that it's documented clearance. And it means I've got to call the physician's office, we've got to go through the whole HIPAA, FERPA, all of those fun acronym abbreviation things for them to tell me or send me a note that they're cleared to release, return to activity. It's frustrating for you, it's equally frustrating for us. Don't take the liability on your shoulders, because I know that none of our children would not tell the truth, and none of our parents would not tell the truth. But we've got to make sure that you're covered, that I'm covered in that situation. We have a rule of 5 safety net, which means, if you read at the bottom, which means the team physician, the attending physician, the athletic trainer, the coach, or the parent has a voice in this. For example, if I try to return an athlete to Kenny as one of his track athletes and runners, and I said, Kenny, I think he's ready to come back to practice. And Kenny starts doing drills with him, and he's limping, and he's saying it's killing him, whatever. Kenny can say, look, he's not going to run today. He's not meeting my coaching standards, okay? So in that situation, we all have a voice in that. Now, as coaches, you don't get to overrule the athletic trainer, just like I don't get to overrule the physician. So they are voices, and they are important voices, but we all have our place and our part in that. A parent can step in, and they can be more conservative than a physician. I'm working with an athlete right now returning from a concussion, and his mom is a little bit nervous about letting him come back to sports. She has the right to say, you know what, I'd rather he wait a few more days, or have a few more practices, or maybe he just is done with this season, but they don't have the right to say that they want to be more aggressive. I feel like he can come back next week instead of the week after. Injury reporting procedures, let us know about the injuries, please, especially ones that occur at away games. If you have a significant injury, a serious injury that occurs in an away game, please give us a call. You should have your athletic trainer's cell number. Give us a call, give us a text, especially with a head injury. There is an academic side of concussions that's important that we need to communicate with the guidance staff and with the teaching staff. So please, as soon as you can let us know that, please do. Return to activity following an injury. This is an important one because medical legal will say that if they have a clearance note, that does not mean that they go back to previous level of activity. Meaning that if your athlete has been out for 6 weeks with whatever, they don't get to play in the game their first day back, right? They need to follow a graduated return to play supervised protocol. This one gets us a lot of times because what do mom and dad want? Well, little Johnny's the star. He's been out for 6 weeks. We want him to play the first game, the first day he's cleared to play. We've got to make sure that we follow a gradual return to play. Rely on your athletic trainer. I do this all the time. Depending on the injury, depending on the sport, depending on the position, I will come up with what I feel is an appropriate return to play protocol for them. So just because they have a doctor's note and they hand it to you doesn't mean that they play in the game that day. Taping and bracing, obviously that's a lot of what we do. We do not do, I need my ankles taped every practice, and it doesn't work like that. My favorite one is, my dad told me that my family has weak ankles, so I need to be taped every day. Yeah, show me the literature on that one, please. So if you have an athlete that is complaining about that, wanting tape, whatever, send them to us, we will talk to them. Taping, bracing is very much a part of what we do, but we want to make sure that we're doing the appropriate therapy to strengthen the joint so they don't need to be taped necessarily, and that they're doing their part. We talked about this earlier, making sure that you know your emergency action plan. If your athlete's parent is not present when you have an emergency, we've talked a lot about this in the district, about what is the appropriate way to do this. You're at an away game, let's let's say it's middle school baseball, you and your assistant coach and one of your boys runs into the fence and gets knocked unconscious, chasing a foul ball. Parents are not there, squad is called, what do you do? Obviously, one of you needs to ride with that athlete, right? Does that make sense? We need to make sure, first of all, that we've got their emergency forms along so we can contact the parents. Second, that we have someone from the district ride with them to the hospital, okay? Make sense? Sometimes it doesn't always work that way. Wrestling is a sport I see this with. Sometimes only one coach will travel. If we've got a freshman going here, JV going here, varsity going here on a Saturday, in that situation, you may pick out a parent that's always there, because obviously you can't leave 15 other kids unsupervised at an away wrestling tournament, right? So maybe you pick out a parent that's always there, another parent that's always there, and say, would you mind following the ambulance to the hospital and kind of being there and communicating with me so I can communicate with the parent? Not an ideal situation, but it's better than, oh yeah, your son was taken to the hospital and we have no idea what's going on. You know, that's not a great phone call to make, right? We talked about that. Okay, so coming down the road, the thing that I would encourage you, I think everybody is it's on our radar. Obviously, it's not just the physical health and well-being of our athletes, but the mental health and well-being of our athletes. We're starting to see more and more athletes be more forthcoming about their struggles with mental health. You know, we've had a situation here in Columbus over the last week with one of our Ohio State basketball players taking some time off from his sport. It's kind of raising, I think, some awareness and maybe taking the stigma away from that. So I look back on my career and think about athletes that I've worked with that have struggled with mental health. And part of the reason they struggle is they're afraid to say something. They're afraid their coach is going to ridicule them, their teammates are going to ridicule them. So we know health and mental and physical well-being go hand in hand. So I'd encourage you to not only pay attention to the physical well-being, but the mental well-being of your athletes. There's going to be a lot more to come on that. For you guys, I know being trained and recognizing those things may not be something you do yet, but I think it's coming. So that's all I've got. Does anybody have any questions that I can answer? Hopefully I didn't go too much over my time. Again, talk to your athletic trainer, get to know them. We're here to help not only the kids, but to help you. You know, my job is to make sure you don't have to take the liability on your shoulders. I want you to worry about the X's and O's, the teaching, the fundamentals of sport. I'll worry about the injuries, and I'll let you know who can do what and when. Good? Excellent. Again, thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, thank you. I'm going to try to move this. Hold on a second. Okay, help me out here. I saw a sign of hands for those of you that are first year. Let me see, first year, stand up for me. Your first year. Okay, keep standing. For those of you that might be anywhere between 1 and 5, stand up. All right, those of you that are 5 to 10, stand up. Ten to 15. 15 to 20. 20 to 25. I'm listening for the vibrating chairs. What number am I on? 25 to 30. 30 to 35. 40 Yeah, I'm coming back here. 35 to 40. I'm gonna turn the mic over to you guys. You can do the rest of the program. I think, all right, I wanted to see, did I miss anybody? How many years?
38.
38. Where are you? What building?
So,
What do you coach basketball? Okay. Eligibility, I'm still looking to play. And you, sir, how long have you been here?
31.
31. All right, give yourselves a round of applause, everybody. Have a seat. All right, I just needed to make sure you guys were awake. It always scares me when I see you just like sitting there, more engaged in your phones, your technology, you're grading papers, you're making plans, you're thinking about tomorrow. And I want you to just be here with me for a few minutes. I promise if you're here with me, maybe I'll get you out a little early. How's that? And if you stay, I'll be so happy. I'll be so happy. So, those of you that are 1 to 5 years, welcome to the Dublin family. Those of you that have been around, thank you for all of your time. We're all here, we're all here as one. Like I said earlier, I know we all have to be here. I get that. And I'm so grateful you're here. I'm so grateful. How many of you are advisors? Let me see your hands. I promise that you will write on your evaluations. That time with the athletic trainer piece was hard. Thank you for being present. I appreciate that. How many of you do both? Coaches and advising both? Is there anybody here that just heard that this was happening tonight and just stopped in? Anybody? I didn't think so. All right. Hey, there's a couple of things I want to make sure you walk away with. I asked you to take this as an opportunity to be present and purposeful. Who did that? Okay? I want you to think here for a minute. For those of you, I said my name, I'm not sure I said what I do. For those of you that are 1 to 5 years, you might be like, who is this person? Like I said earlier, my name is George Andoniaco, and I've been in the district for a really long time. Those of you that stood up to say 1 to 5 years, maybe you weren't even born yet. Sad. I have the opportunity and the blessing to work with young people who make poor choices, and I get to intervene with them. And I get to support young people who choose not to use substances and do what I can to be able to help and continue them in a way that supports them in that arena. So with that being said, I have a lot of different ideas. But my commitment continues to do what I have to do, like many of you. When you create your lesson plans, your plans for your court, the wrestling, the classrooms, your clubs. I do it just like you. What can I do to make a difference? How can I empower you? How can I empower young people to continue to make positive choices? Without question, you're the toughest audience that I have to work with. It's hard. It's really hard. I'm going to ask you to think for a minute. I'm going to ask you, because one of the things that I'm fortunate to do, you probably know this, if I violate the extracurricular code, if you violate the extracurricular code, as a student, you invite yourself to hang out with me, usually on a Monday night, sometimes on Tuesdays, it just pretty much depends on the schedule. But I get to hang out with the students who violate the code. Carly George, my coworker, works with the parents, and then we collectively come together. But I'm going to ask you a couple questions, and this, I need you to participate in this, or else we will not get out early. Because I can hang on and I can wait. Gentlemen, They're all nodding their heads. They already have their hands up. They are excited. So I'm going to count. Look at them. All right. Here's some questions. How many of you know somebody, have seen somebody, or have heard of somebody who might be an alcoholic or an addict? Does anybody? Let me see your hands. All right? All right. Now this is where I need you to throw it out there for me, okay? I want you to tell me those people that you're thinking of. I want you to close your eyes for just 1 second. Don't fall asleep, but close your eyes for 1 second. I want you to think about that person. I want you to think about who they are, who they may have been, and what it was that made you think immediately of that person. What were those characteristics? What actions, what behaviors threw them immediately into that category? Do you have that person in mind? Open your eyes up for me now. Throw out to me some of the actions, behaviors, situations that you're thinking, yes, that's what it is. When I think of someone who's an addict, when I think of someone who might have a problem, when I think of this person who may unfortunately not be with us anymore, tell me, shout it out, somebody. Yeah.
The person I'm thinking of is an adult, but they cannot hold.
Talk real loud, Megan.
Job. Can you hear me?
I can't hear you, hon.
Oh, I said the person I'm thinking about can't hold a consistent job.
Can't hold a consistent job. Thank you. All right. That's a good one. Keep going.
Denial of their actions.
Denial of their actions. I gotta tell you, that Denial, Ohio, right? That Denial, Ohio, we don't live in Denial, Ohio. Remind me to talk about Denial, Ohio. Okay, I'm sorry, I have to walk around. The microphone's gonna be obnoxious to those who love me. And you're like, we don't, so it's not okay. All right, yeah. Negligent to responsibilities, that's good. What else? Yeah.
The guy that I'm thinking of said he doesn't care about the future, like he only cares about what's right now. And so if he's hungover at work, he'll deal with that tomorrow.
Yeah, it's almost like I don't know if you could hear, they're not really thinking about anything but right now. It's like, first of all, it's not gonna happen to me, right? And this is where I am and I'm fine. And so I'm hungover, what's the big deal? Is that pretty much what you're saying? Okay, all right, what else? Yeah. Anger and frustration. Okay, is that what you said? I wanna make sure. Yeah. All of you had your hands up. I want to hear it. Not everybody, but yeah.
Tarnishes relationships.
Tarnishes. Can you add a little bit to that?
I feel as though people with addiction can be very selfish and think of themselves and not realize that they're affecting others. So that tends to tarnish or destroy relationships.
Really good. Yeah. Selfish. Don't even. If we had a mirror up and even reflected what we saw, they saw something completely different. Would you agree to that?
Yeah.
Which goes a little bit with the denial piece, right? What are we missing? Thank you. What else? Throw it out there. Gentlemen, I gave you a lot of time. Oh, thank you. Attempted suicide. Okay? Thank you. Not like that's good, but that's horrible. Yeah.
Crisis and conflict just follows them wherever they go.
Crisis and conflict follows them anywhere and everywhere they go. And sometimes, can you add anything more to that?
They just can't get it out of the way of themselves.
These are like really good things that really let me know. Because you're nodding your heads like, yeah, they can't even get out of the way of themselves. Even when we ask them to, right? Even when we're like, get out of the way. Either they're saying, what are you talking about? Or they're selfish about it, or the one thing that they think they know how to do best from our perspective is create a crisis. It's like, you know how to do that. You know how to manage it. And when things start to go well, they go back to what feels normal, right? And that's the crisis piece. Does that make sense? Does that, anybody ever see that? What are we missing? What are we missing? That person you're thinking of. Yeah.
Lack of motivation.
Lack of motivation. And when we talk to them about it, what do they say?
Well, sometimes like a couple people I've thought of, they just don't even want to get better. Even though like they know they're bad, but they just kind of don't care.
It appears even when you have a conversation with them, it appears as if they don't want to get better. And we're even reaching out, right? We're reaching out. That's really good. I hate when I say that after something so horrible. It's a good description of what it is we're talking about. What else? What are we missing? Yeah.
I really wanted to be released, so I thought I would participate.
I'll take it.
I think that sometimes, like, the person I'm thinking of, they worked harder to come off as okay, like normal. And so you see them working really hard until they just like snap it. There's like that emotional dysregulation. So you see like them working really hard, and then all of a sudden it's just like a drop off.
They do. Because it's important to them to have us think. If I did put the mirror up to them, that they appear as if they have it all together. That could probably take lots and lots more time. And each and every one of you, because we know somebody, we care about somebody, we love somebody, we live with somebody, we wish we lived with somebody, who struggle with addiction, who struggle with addiction. And when we get to that point, and we start to really allow ourselves to feel some of these things that we're feeling, man, it just doesn't feel good. There's so many things I want to say. There's so many things I want to share. And I don't have the time, because I promised you I'm going to try to get you out early. But you know what? I don't have the time to be able to share everything I want to share with you. But I am going to ask you to be with me for just a minute or two. Now some of you are like, really? You're going to draw on this? I am. Because I decided the presentation that's on the slideshow is good, thoughtful. But I want to have this conversation with you in this way. Because when I'm fortunate enough to spend my time with the young kids on Monday or Tuesday night, every time at the end of it, this is what they say is most important. This is the piece that they say is most valuable. This is the language that when they come back to talk to me, this is what they talk about. So when I was sitting over there, and Chris was talking, I thought, I need a dry erase board. God love our custodial staff. They're like, we don't have one. I said, that's okay. She found one. So lucky for you, you're going to hear what I have to say about this. So one of the things, do we have any art teachers in here? Phew. Okay. Anybody? What? Water. You're gonna get out like 3 minutes early. All right, he said water, all right? So you could just picture this as it's a river. Who said it? God, excuse me. What's your name? Alex, thank you. Everyone wants to give you a high five for this because they know they're getting out a little bit earlier. All right, so you guys, this is what I want you to think about, all right? This is what I call the river. And if you can't see this, get in a place to see this, because when you walk away tonight, I promise you, you're going to think twice about this. The young people or adults, when you closed your eyes, that I asked you to think about, were these people that are down here. All right? When you think of addiction, it's the people that are all the way down here. All right? Now, these people here are the young people that we deal with every single day of our life. All right? I don't care if you're in middle school, I don't care if they're sitting around if you're fortunate enough to have them around the dinner table, and you've heard me say this before, you know what a dinner table is, right? You know what that is? You're like, yeah, we're trying to get out early enough to get there. All right? I want you to be there too. I want you to share with me quickly, all the reasons why young people have been told over and over and over again, or you have been told over and over and over again, why a young person or you, whoever it is, should not use substances. Do we have any health teachers in here? Has anyone in their life ever taken help? They're nodding their heads, just in case you're curious. All right, give me reasons. Throw them out there, as many as you have heard, why you, your students, your coach, anybody in your world should not use a substance. Throw them out there. Go.
Most of the things that we think are
Loud. Because there's this fan. There's like an obnoxious fan back here. Can you guys hear it? It's kind of hard to hear, right? Okay, throw it out louder.
most of the drugs that you think you're taking aren't even what you think they are.
Could you hear it? I'm sorry. Usually I think I can hear it, but
Most of the drugs that you think you're taking, it's one that you get off the street isn't even what you think it is.
so the people, you never really know what you're taking, right? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Not good, but got it. Okay, other reasons. Thank you for starting us off. Come on, everybody, yeah.
The consequences of drugs.
Consequences?
Yeah.
Like, it could be medical, like don't do drugs because there's medical consequences. Like what? What would be a medical consequence? Liver failure, right? We learned about that. Keep going. Heart failure, what else? Keep going, come on.
Accidental overdose.
Accidental overdose, what'd you say? Expensive. Keep going, come on. Ill? Who said that? Yes? What's illegal? I thought it's illegal. Okay. Even marijuana, is it illegal? He's nervous. It's like, okay, you asked me to shout out. I shouted out. It's one that I was so confident it's illegal, and now you're harassing me. I'm sorry. The kids are like, it's legal. It's like, it is? Where did you hear that? Well, it's gonna be. When? That's a whole other argument. Okay, give me more. More reasons why young people should not use. Go. Social consequences. Like what? Destroy relationships. Keep going. Family relationships. Okay. Keep thinking. Somebody had their hand up. Come on.
It kind of
Turns
turns you into an alternate persona.
you into an alternate persona. And then what? Ever been told that? Yeah, okay. All right, keep going. What have you been told? What do you tell your kids? Come on. It's illegal. What? Cost you a job? All right, what else?
Brain development.
Brain development. What is a brain? Okay, somebody said something over here.
Drug testing for sports, you wouldn't be able to play.
Drug testing for sports. You won't be able to play. Keep going. Yeah. Drugs are addicting? All of them? You're like, man, I thought that one was safe too, just like legal. Okay. Addictive, what else? Come on. What are we missing? Death? Okay. Keep going. Reasons why you've been told not to use, or you tell your club members, or you tell your students that are on your teams.
For sure grades.
hurts your grades, okay, keep going.
Ruin your life.
Could affect your future, right? Somebody said something over here.
Ruin your life.
Ruin your life. What else? Jail. Yeah, that's always, that's a for sure thing. What else? We missing anything? Yeah.
I will be disappointed in you. All is over.
Are you Greek?
No.
No. Could you hear that one?
It worked for me. I don't want to disappoint.
I will be disappointed in you, right? Research has shown, in case you care, there, in the last couple times of some of the research, two of the top reasons were not to use is that you would disappoint your family member or they thought that their parent might kill them. I grew up with both of those. My dad never laid a hand on me, but I knew not to do anything that would embarrass my family and the sheer threat. My dad never laid a hand on me, but coming from a Greek family, you just knew. What are we missing? Thank you for that one. What are we missing? Can they be on your sports teams? Do you talk about that? Can they be in your club? Do you talk about that? I don't know. I don't know. So I want you to think about this. What is this? This is a river, you guys. This is a river. And here are our young people that are standing here on the edge of the river. Remember, I told you this is the addict. That's the alcoholic. That's all the way on the end. And we have said time after time after time, just about every single thing you have said, and then some. Like, if you use, you're going to lose brain cells, right? If you use, you're going to get arrested. If you use, you're going to lose the start on my team. If you lose, you're going to not be able to be president of my team. Just thought it better be clear. There's a lot of things going on in politics right now, and I want to make sure on our teams. Reason after reason after reason. And I want you to think of something. When I think of addiction and when I think of my job, I think of a river. And I think of what we do time and time and time again to prevent young people from jumping in. We talk to our parents, we talk to you, we talk to other teachers, we talk to peers, we talk to our students and teach them over and over and over again so that we don't live in Dublin, Denial, Ohio, right? And then these kids, you guys are standing on the edge and we're building this bridge and this wall that's trying to prevent young people with all of these messages to not jump in the water. Would you agree? If the water was representing substance use, we give them every reason and then some not to jump, right? Would you agree? Nod your heads if you're listening. Are you with me? And yet, they are standing here on the edge. You can't even see them because this fence is so thick. But the peeking, have you ever looked through a privacy fence and you can still see through it, right? You know what I'm talking about? These boys are like, yep, I've done that. And so have these kids. And you guys, when they look through the privacy fence, they see friends, peers, teammates, clubmates, or whoever it is that is having these conversations with them that's completely neglecting everything that we've ever said. As a matter of fact, they're saying, I'm going to come over to you. What's your first name? Mr. Illegal? Yeah. Alex. They're saying, Alex. Dr. D has no clue what she's talking about. She doesn't know. As a matter of fact, I've been in the water now for a while. I'm still playing. Point guard, as a matter of fact. You come on in. Join me. I have all my brain cells. It's going to be legal here soon. You're almost 21. You're what, 16? You got this, right? Don't worry about getting caught. Drug testing, I'll get you out of it. Don't worry, right? Denial, It's fine. It's not like if you jump in and hang out with me, everything's fine. Look at us. We're all right here and we're fine. As a matter of fact, the vision is as if they're on floaties. Have you guys ever gone to a lazy river? Right? They're in these little floaties and they're there and they're like, come on, join me. And although they may be tempted, and although they may be scared, their curiosity takes over. They may even forget the disappointment. They may even forget the fear of being caught from you as the coach, or the police, or their parents. So what do? What do? I'm not sure if I can say this to a group of adults, but for a lack of a better term, as it has been described to me, and I will quote, I flipped the world off and I jumped. And what happens, you guys, when they jump? What happened? What happened to these kids when they jump in the river? What? The current takes them. And did all these things happen immediately? No, doggone it, I wish when you jumped or when they jumped, I don't know you, but when they jumped, if their arm fell off, yeah, they'd get the heck out of the water quickly, wouldn't they? But no, unfortunately, they jumped and they got away with it. Do you know anybody who ever jumped in the river, got away with it? Let me see your hands. Let me see it. Come on. Do you know anybody who jumped in the river, and it could be you, and don't tell me your stories, I don't want to know, but if it was you go ahead and put your hand in that, means you know somebody. Do you know somebody who jumped in the river before it was legal, or while they were on a sports team, and they got away with it? Let me see your hands. Look around. Look around. Let me see. Let me see your hands. And it may have been you. And you know what's scary? Is when you jump. Can you guys see that okay sitting there? When you jump and you get away with it, what happens? Say it again. They think they can do it again, and what do? They do it again. And again. And they get pushed a little farther. And you guys, if there's no consequences, if there is no consequences for their actions, they stay in. Now, I am not telling you that everybody is down here. Quite frankly, I don't want to wait until they get down there. But you're right, the longer they stay in, the risks become greater. I can't tell you, every Monday night, I have a young kid who says, this was way more fun. If I got caught to get out, I wouldn't be in the position I'm in right now. By the time we get them, by the time we're hanging with them on Monday or Tuesday nights, I can tell you, I can go through this. I can go through this and give you all the logical talk, the diagnosis, and all of that. But the bottom line is, what did you say? The longer I'm in, the further I go. Can you envision that? Yeah? Now, I want you to think about those people that are down on the end here, right? Think about those people that I had you close your eyes. You know what's crazy? Is they all jump the same way. They all had the same reasons not to. They all jumped the same way. Now you guys, you gotta know a couple of things. Checking my time, because I promised I'm getting you out early, right? As an adult, we could wait until we were 25 to jump for the first time. How many of you know somebody who started smoking or drinking beyond the age of 25? Does anybody know anybody? You know? Okay. Anybody else? So one person knows somebody who started at the age of 25 or older. The rest of you are like, no, I don't know anybody. And that's pretty typical. So if I jumped at the age of 25 or older, depending on my family history and what's actually going on in my life, for me to get down to here, it would take anywhere between 5 to 15 years, depending on some things. For the young kids who are in our clubs and our sports teams, how long do you think it could take? Anybody? Can't get out, do you, dog?
A year.
1 year, did I hear? Anybody else? Thank you. Who said that? Thank you. Couple months? You all agree to this? Is that it? What do you think? 6 months to 2 years. You're all pretty close. For an adolescent, it takes anywhere between 5 and 15 months from the time I jumped. Why is 25 the big age? I know you know this, I just want you to make sure you say it out loud. Brain's about fully developed. Now you guys still have a little bit of, you need extra time. Us women, we're the ones that are usually, a little bit ahead of you guys. But that's okay, that's a separate thing, all right? It's all right. 5 to 15 months. Why is that important? You guys, 5 to 15 months. If I'm a young person and jumps in, and I choose to do nothing, what did you say earlier happens? They do it again and again. And as coaches and club advisors, as parents, as concerned community members, as adults, as young adults, if we turn our head and watch them jump and choose to do nothing, we're allowing them to stay in. And how lucky are we, as coaches and as club advisors, that we have the chance to pull their butts out. At least hold them accountable to the choices. The scary thing and the hard thing is sometimes they're in the water, and as coaches and club advisors, would you agree we're over here in school, right? And we don't even know they're in here. Would you agree? But the scary thing is, the longer they're in the water, the greater risk is that we see. We see changes in our clubs, we see changes in our classrooms, we see changes on the courts, on the whatever, in the relationships. We start to see some of the things, not to the level that you think of when you talked about those people when you closed your eyes. But it starts. And the other thing that's really hard, especially for young people, and you know this, and this might even be for you. You know some young people who jumped in with you or with others that swept a lot faster. Would you agree? It's like we all jumped together. As a matter of fact, we held hands and jumped together. Can you visualize that? Let's all do it. Let's just do it. And for some reason, some hands were slipperier and went a lot faster. And some were able to stay back here. It's just like with us, right? Some people were able to stay here. Some people went into the second stage. Some people went here. Some didn't make it. A couple Mondays ago, when I did this with some boys, and it was all boys. We have girls that are there because girls do make some poor choices. The joke about that, we all do. We have young men and young women who are in the water quite a bit. But a young man said something that almost chilled me to the bone. he said, you've had a couple of kids talk about this river and talk about, I don't know if you can see this, but they describe it as the waterfall. And they say the longer they're in, and the more times they use, and the more often that it happens, without consequence, and even with some small consequences at home, even with the embarrassment, even with the vomiting, even with the blackouts, even with the arrests, even with the loss of participation on a sports team, they stay in the water. And this young man, who was very verbal, became very silent. I said, what's going on? And he said, oh my God. I said, what? And he was sitting on the corner and he had two guys next to him and he said, I don't even know how to say what I'm thinking. And I said, what? And he took, I had a little piece of paper and he took it and he drew this waterfall. And he said, I can picture myself right here in that floaty on the edge of the waterfall, looking down. And when I'm looking down, he said, I can see where the water is calm. And if I had gone into that waterfall and fell to the bottom, all those substances that I swore to God I'd never use were that close. He said, I don't know if I can get out of the water by myself. Because I don't even know how the hell I got that close to the waterfall. Can you see that? You guys, this was a tough kid. Tough kid. Who was angry that he got caught. Angry. In that moment in time, it's one of those things where I still have the chills, where the light bulb went off on him and he said, I gotta do something. When he described what he could visualize down here, because he said, if you think about it, these are his words, there's water before all those things that happen. And those other options of all the things that you talked about are right there, because it was right there for me. He walked out grateful that he got caught. Grateful. And I always tell the kids, you don't know me, but I'm really glad that you got caught. No, I'm really glad. I'm really grateful. It's like, I'm really glad that you chose to be with me on a Monday night. I couldn't think of anybody else I'd rather be with. I'm like, you're crazy. I said, thank you. I like that. When we can start to identify some of the things that have allowed them to be in that water, and they can see stages 1, 2, and 3, and 4 of their life, they can start to realize, this is where I don't want to go. And when we do our code groups, you guys, this is the reason why we have our extracurricular code. We can think it's a bunch of baloney. You can think it's a waste of time, or you could be grateful that we are part of a community that values this to get our young people out of the water so that we're not in denial, Dublin, Ohio. Denial, Ohio is fine, commercial-wise. There's a piece in my mind that's missing. And it's this. And it's this. Young people that are jumping, our number one drug of choice is still what? What is it?
Alcohol.
It's still alcohol. But for those of you that had said weed, it's very close. The new survey results have not come out, but I can tell you with the states that have legalized, there are some states that have legalized marijuana, not poor guy pointing to you like, sorry. I did ask for feedback and I asked you to say something and now I'm picking on you. I'm gonna pick on somebody else over here. Marijuana is legalized in a number of states for those individuals who are 21 and older for recreational purposes. The consequences that have occurred as a result for impaired driving and young people who have jumped much earlier than they've ever jumped before, soaking wet with additional consequences, is overwhelming. We also have young people without a surprise that have described their first jump was with a vape, with a Juul. And they have said that once they're in the water, or, sorry that this looks so bad, but once they were in the water, they were able to see and become curious and were invited to try other substances. And the longer you're in the water, the more substances that are available. Young people who jump before the age of 15 are more likely to have problems later on in life. I'd have to say 90% of the young kids that I spend Monday and Tuesday nights with jumped 15 and younger. Which means, let me see, those of you that are middle school, I asked you right now to write down names, and I'm not asking you to do that, but you're sitting here and you're thinking, I think I know one of my middle school kids that may have already jumped. Don't just raise your hand. Can you think of somebody in middle school that you think may have already jumped? Let me see your hands. And you're like, well, they haven't, they probably will soon. Right? Okay? All right? We gotta get in the way of those kids. That privacy fence has to be blocked. We have to give them reasons not to, because you guys, if they jump in, the fight is much greater here. Because they're gonna say, you don't know what the heck you're talking about. Yeah, it's illegal, but so what? I'm not getting caught. It's not a big deal. We have to make it a big deal for them not to. I know how hard it is to get them out of the water here. I'm here in Dublin because it was painful to watch this. I decided I needed to do something early on so that we can get our young people out of the water anywhere and everywhere. Toss them a towel, throw them a life preserver, have them understand the consequences that are associated with it without judgment. We're not here to judge anybody. And if you're sitting in a seat of judgment, I'm asking you to get out. This is a disease that is very wicked. And we also know that young people who jump, number one, they may not even know it. If it's in our family, who are we? Come on, give me a break. Many of us know family members that have all kinds of different diseases. So we're going to start being judgmental about something like this? No, we don't have space for that. When you're thinking of a young person, and you're thinking about a variety of different things and conversations, I know, I wanted to tell you something about weed. And the denial, Ohio. Because when they start talking about opioids, right? Isn't that what denial, Ohio is pretty much all about? Right? It's usually they're down here. I want the messaging to be up here. I want it to be a very clear and consistent message from each and every one of us here and everybody outside of here. We have a responsibility to make it very clear and very consistent that it's not okay. If you're 25 and older and you want to jump in, that's your choice. Prefer you wait until you're 25. If you're 21 and under, if you're under 21 and you're a coach, I hope to God you're not in the water. So there's all kinds of things that can sweep them a whole lot faster, and we can go through all of those. But you know what they are. when you start seeing those changes in behaviors. Somebody said it over here, how they really, really work hard to make sure you as a coach, as a teacher, as a parent, that you don't know. As a colleague, as a spouse, a niece, and a nephew, a son or a daughter, they work really, really hard. Couple. That was my original river. Isn't that pretty? It's not so pretty when we get down to the bottom. Here's some questions I just want you to keep in mind. And these are, you don't necessarily have to ask young people this, but this is a quick and dirty thing when you think of craft. If you know somebody who's ridden in a car with someone who's been under the influence or they have been under the influence, think about it. When I talk to the kids on Monday night and I ask them that, all of them say, before they jump, absolutely not. They would never get in the car, they would never drive a car, they would never be in that situation. But you know what happens when you jump? What happens? Tell me. And they end up driving in the car, right? Either with somebody who's been drinking or smoking weed. There's so many things I want to say about the challenges that comes with smoking weed. Has anyone ever heard a young person say, you don't have to worry about me smoking with weed, I drive better? Has anyone ever heard that, or is it just the conversations that happen in my office? Anybody? Yeah.
That is one of the craziest things ever. Young people who think,
I was scared, I yelled in there with my microphone. That is not possible to drive better under the influence of marijuana. Days later, they can still see impairment as a result of smoking weed that happened over the weekend. Absolutely unacceptable. Don't buy that. But it keeps them in the water, doesn't it? Same thing. If I drive under the influence and I get away with it the first time, what do I land up doing? I do it again. And I do it again. And I do it again until something happens. Okay, we're in a car. If you know a young person who may describe that they relax, feel better about him or herself, or just to fit in, another risk factor. These are just quick and dirty things when you're thinking about someone who may be in the water. If a young person says, I don't like party with everybody else, I only do it alone. Or I have to do it before, pre-game, I just do it by myself. These are things that you need to worry about. If you know a young person who's had a blackout or a green out as they describe it, don't remember bits and pieces of the evening or the day or the weekend. They're at risk. If their family or friends express concern, even though they worked really hard to make sure that they don't know about it, that's a risk factor. If they've ever been in trouble for using a substance. So if they answer one or two of these, in your mind, when you're thinking of a young person that you wonder, we need to spend some time with them. We need to pull them out. We need to find a way to be able to get them some help. I wasn't going to share this story, but I want to give you a perspective of why I do what I do and why I've done it for so long. And I told you originally I started to work with young people, and it was down here. And it's hard. It's hard. This year's been hard. I have a lot of joy in my profession, watching young kids either pull other kids out or prevent them from jumping. We're seeing the consequences that come along. Consequences that come along with staying in the water too long. Gone to too many funerals. I've celebrated a lot of kids being clean, but I've gone to too many funerals. my perspective on what I can do to make a difference with young people started many, many moons ago. It was with a young man named Danny. Danny was a great young man. Been in the water for a little while. And it was a gorgeous day. It was March 23rd, as a matter of fact. Let's see what time it is. And it was an unusually gorgeous day. Not often do we have a beautiful day in March, but it was a beautiful day, and Danny and two of his friends decided that it was way too nice to go to school that day. And Danny decided, let's go in, check in at homeroom, meet me in the back, and we'll go. And they did. So Danny and his two friends were marked in school. We didn't do daily attendance or weekly, or was period attendance at that point. Danny and his two friends went out. They got some alcohol, they got some weed, they hung out at the lake because it was so beautiful. And their plan was really perfect in their mind. And they went, they hung out, and Danny would still say, not now, but he said it was probably the best day that he had ever had. Danny remembers dropping off his first friend at his house. They planned it perfectly so that their parents would never know that they had skipped school. So they were coming back home around 3:15, if I remember correctly. Danny dropped off his first friend. He's not really sure if he remembers that or not, and he's not even sure he remembers dropping off his second friend. But he certainly doesn't remember the rest of the story. When Danny was driving home, because the weather was so nice, it was gorgeous and it was sunny, an off-duty police officer was on his motorcycle. And the off-duty police officer had his sister on the back. Danny doesn't remember the rest of the story at all, but he has been told this story over and over again. Danny went left of center, hit the motorcycle, and continued until he hit a tree. Danny killed the police officer, the sister that was on the back of the motorcycle, never walked again. Danny came out of his blackout much later, and as Danny described, and this was a long time ago, and I remember this conversation like it was yesterday, because I don't remember, but what I do remember is this big, huge ass police officer looking at me, just chewing me out. And I looked at him and said, "What are you doing? What are you yelling at me for? What are you talking about?" The police officer looked at Danny and said, "You killed my best friend." Danny's life was, as you can imagine, never the same. You guys, Danny was my first client that I ever had. After I was given the opportunity for licensure, you go through the internship and you get all, and like, you get the next person who comes in. Danny was a great kid whose life changed just like that. Just like that. Danny's life was never the same, as you can imagine. We all know individuals, and Danny was my first. Unfortunately, he wasn't my last. And one of the things that I instantly realized, that we hear a lot of judgment that goes along with young people and adults, our family members who are in the water that can't get out. with judgment. You guys, Danny was a great kid. He was proud as an adult. You can imagine the rest of the story. Do I need to tell it to you? No. But this is what I'm begging you to do. As Danny taught me many moons ago, before I even came to Dublin, that it's so hard the longer you're in the water. And Danny got away with it time and time and time and time again. And people regretted not throwing him a life preserver. People regretted not holding him accountable for the code. People regretted. You guys, I'm a very forgiving person. I am. If I was Danny's mom and I kissed him goodbye in the morning and said, "Bye, honey, I love you. Have a great day." And found out what he did. Guys, that's my boy, right? That's my boy. He didn't mean to do anything horrible. That's my boy. But as forgiving as I am, if I was the mother of the son who died and the daughter who never walked again, that's my boy. That's my boy. You took my boy. I was young. I was very young when I met Danny. I carried with him every single day that fight that I had even back then. No one won. No one won. It doesn't matter how that trial worked out, no one won. So I beg you, sometimes those tough conversations that we have to hold our young people accountable have to happen. Have to happen in order to be able to do whatever we have to do to get our young people out of the water. If it's difficult for you to have those conversations and you don't know how to do it, reach out to us. Either call Carly or myself, and we'd be more than happy to help you navigate that conversation. We can't stop the fight. I want to stop all the funerals. I want to stop. I don't want us to be in denial. As a community, as a coach, and as a club advisor, as parents, and as community members. We're fortunate enough here that we can embrace this. And if we have to build the wall longer and pull them out over and over again, I'm begging you to do that. Each and every one of you should be aware, and if you're not, please take the time to review the extracurricular code. Some of you are well into your season, some of you, your seasons are complete. Those of you that are club advisors, if you haven't had a conversation yet, open it up for discussion. Talk to them about it. For those of you that have had young people who have had extracurricular code violations, ask them, are you in the water or not? What's going on? Are you on the edge? Do I need to do something to make sure you don't jump again? What can I do to help? Questions? I thought I'd end a little bit earlier, and I'm sorry I didn't. I beg you to continue to do the fight that you do. There's lots of things. I just want to get to the end. You should know this all over. This is important. Reach out to us if you need us. My days are spent mostly at Jerome and Coffman. Carly is mostly at the bridge in Scioto. All of us are here for you. You are here for the kids. Thank you for everything that you do. before you depart, please make sure your name is on the back, way in the back for attendance purposes. There's a white box outside. Please put your evaluations in. Thank you so much for your time.